Good morning. Good morning. It's 3:55 or so here. So just sitting in my sunroom, chilling. I was watching an Alba and Preach video, and it was talking about how like the alpha beta is astrology for men. Just came out like 4 hours ago, so pretty fresh. I saw this and it was a bit disturbing, but it falls in line with I've always thought of as third waveism, which is by the third wave of any movement, it has diverted so far from its original premise that it's almost unrecognizable. The terms alpha, beta, sigma, omega, these terms have been around for a while, and I left a comment in the comment section there where I just pretty much said that a lot of these terms were. So I made an analogy first. One of my analogy was, hearing all these terms in the mainstream is like your favorite artist or band making it from your favorite underground artist or band coming from in a sense the shadows, or coming from those like obscure bars and places that you would frequent or listen to them too, or like even SoundCloud, and kind of make it to the mainstream. And in a lot of ways, people that come, the new audience doesn't understand, where they came from. Like The Weeknd. If you listen to The Weeknd now versus The Weeknd's Thursday album or House of Balloons, it's not that far off, especially from his earlier mainstream work. But money is the motive. All that money, the money is the motive. Girl, put in work. So like that type of feeling, in terms of the music, has definitely changed, and of course, he's changed as well. But when you start to see like your favorite band or artist come to the mainstream, and people are just listening to them or getting into them, it's like some of that magic is missed, some of that understanding is missed. So that's just something that like I see that's kind of how I look at what's happening in the manosphere, or what's happening with the manosphere becoming mainstream. That to me is kind of a little bit disheartening, but it's understandable, because scrutiny is necessary for this space to grow. I don't think I've Preacher just like, they're making commentary on it and their opinions on it. And their opinions will definitely be shared by the masses. This space was never, the masses weren't in it. Like, especially like when I was first introduced into it as well, the first introduced to it back in like 2015 or so. About 2015 or so. 2015. We'll say 2015. And then I got into the black side of things, like Ed Moore and things like that, around 2017. All these different terms, MGTOW, blue pill, red pill, Ed Moore even. There are all ways. Actually, I won't include Ed Moore into it. That's just a space I'm kind of in now, in terms of I love the introspection portion of like Ed Moore and what that means, and understanding that. But I can't say I follow all the tenets of Ed Moore. Anyways, all these terms, all these movements, all these acronyms, or these phrases that described a mindset, a way of thinking, a way of life, they were all used because we didn't understand totally what was happening, and it wasn't crystallized to the point where it is now, where we're seeing a lot of these things come out in academic literature, in terms of, doctors such as like Dr. T.S. Johnson, Tommy Curry in his book, The Man Not, and how it describes, black men and black men in our society, the past and the present. And, when we look at all these different things and try to put it together, right? Like, we need words. This starts to So we start to take things from, what we know and what we understand, and then try to apply them to those things so we can better understand it and so other people can better understand it. Defining these things, or putting certain phrases to them, like blue pill and red pill, and then coming up with new terms like purple pill. It's like, hey, listen, you're a blue pill person. You're a blue pill person for the most part, but then you do understand the reality of what's going on around you, and so on and so forth. A lot of people like to talk about, hey, this is common sense, or this is something that Patrice O'Neill used to say, or my grandfather used to say this line, so on and so forth. And those things are understandable, but what happens is sometimes they just don't get the traction that they deserve, such as Patrice O'Neill. Like I've seen, like, people talk about, there's in one video that was mentioned that, if Patrice O'Neill was around today, he'd be making bank, or he'd be, in a sense, the face, or the or maybe possibly a leader of this movement, if you will, of men that talk about this type of stuff, or he would be a larger voice in the space, most definitely. So when you hear, some people talk about this space and how, like, hey, I used to listen to Abba, I think it's Abba. Abba talks about, like, hey, listen, I used to hear Patrice O'Neill say this type of stuff. And for me, my Patrice O'Neill was people like Barbarossa, that would, he was personally, for me, he was the first person that I really heard about hypergamy from. And then going even deeper and talking about things like hybristophilia, and, the women, kind of to define the woman's attraction to the bad boy and all this other stuff, right? So it's crazy to see these different terms being defined in different ways. And now with third waveism, as I like to call it, in the manosphere, we're starting to see where people are moving farther and farther from that. And I think that's such a huge problem. But it's understandable. And if this manosphere, if this space, this black manosphere even, can actually hold up to this scrutiny, to this mainstream attention, then we could see how it could actually grow. And I'm seeing good things with it, So even with, like, Abba and Preach coming out and, talking about, or having their commentary on, man, I want to say his name is Anthony Spade, man. I think the guy's name is Anthony Spade. I forgot the guy's name. But the gentleman he had that he was watching a video of talking about Sigma males, as I understood, and for me to define it, alpha male was the leader of the pack, akin to like a wolf. An alpha male is the person that led his pack, and led his pack in so many ways in terms of governance and making sure that everyone was okay. Even to the point where the alpha male would fall to the back of the actual pack of wolves to make sure that there's nothing that was coming up behind him, that he was the first one to be attacked, and ensure that his pack would survive and be able to escape, or even to help him. So, I mean, that's what I understood, like, as an alpha male, as, not the, like, I'm talking mostly character. The money stuff aside, I mean, you could just have people that have less than a strong moral compass or strong foundation, or even emotional foundation, have money and be leaders. We've seen that. And then a beta male was a person that was subordinate to this alpha male. And it doesn't always mean that the beta male was weaker than, or less than, or, not worthy of even mating or anything else like that. It was just that he was subordinate to the tribe, to the pack. So, somebody like that would be a good underling and loyal underling to the alpha. And maybe the beta wants to be the alpha, but that comes with competition, especially in male spaces. Then we look at Sigma. Sigma was, again, this is all my definitions from when I first came into the space. Sigma was known as, and this came later, but it's kind of crazy because Sigma started to become cool, but it was never really cool. Sigma was that person that was isolated, that, could possibly, talk with other people to a certain extent, but for the most part was a loner. Right? Like I know that contradicts, being isolated and then talk with no, I understand that. But we're human, so there's always conversations with other people. But the Sigma would be a loner for the most part and stay to themselves. Mostly, you would see the introverts would be in this space, or introverts would be considered a Sigma of some sort. Who else? Introvert would be considered a Sigma. The goth kid, even though the goth kid was a part of a group, or maybe the really smart kid that couldn't really just, there weren't too many people on his level, and he wasn't socially. I guess he wasn't a very sociable person. I'll put it like that. So it was never seen as like what I see nowadays, where the Sigma is a loner alpha, the lone wolf. I don't totally believe in the lone wolf theory, because, lone wolves are easily killed. But they were the person that was isolated. I consider myself a Sigma male. I'll definitely admit that. Or I definitely would look at myself as that, even though I can communicate with others. I could be alpha in my own right in terms of like companies that I've ran and being in business meetings with my business partners in the companies that I've ran in the past, and being a leader of my brothers I consider my brothers, my former business partners, I definitely consider my brothers. And then also being a coach as well, but also knowing that even while being a coach, not being the head coach, taking that beta role, that subordinate role, and helping the actual group, the team. And then, of course, helping the younglings, the younger ones, the athletes, helping them get to, their best, get to their best goals, or get to being their best and being successful. So, I mean, I would consider mostly socially, I'd be a Sigma, but, in so many different ways, I've been, all those different terms in the what's it called, male astrology spectrum, if you will, because Albert Preach said that, and I thought that was a pretty funny one. Like, this is astrology for men. I thought that was hilarious. So, but then we look at Omega. So Omega is always looked at as destruction or destructive person, and I would definitely say that would be commons like the red pill rage, where these are men that would look at these things and or look at what's going on in society and say they want it all to burn down, and they don't want to see it anymore, or they want it to be changed and things like that. And that would be the Omega male. That would be the person that wants the end, that wants and that's classically so, because Omega is like, there's the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end. Omega is usually seen as somebody that or the term Omega, unless it's like a watch being pronounced, or a watch in James Bond or something like that, the Omega. I've always wanted an Omega watch just because of the way they said it. Anyways, but the Omega male is always seen as somebody that, I know the Omega male as someone that has that almost wants destruction. John, I think it's John Galt or James Galt. I think it's John Galt. Who is John Galt? I forgot. I listened to that book a while back by Ayn Rand, When Atlas Shrugged, and John Galt. I thought that was a very interesting take on things, and he's a man that he would be. Honestly, I'd consider him like a Sigma, an alpha, and like he encompassed so many different spectrums, and then the men around him encompassed that as well. In fact, I should probably re-listen to that book. But you would almost see him as an omega in a sense because of the fact that he wants to see the world change and he's willing to let it burn. But then you could also see him as an alpha because he's a leader among men, and he's a man that allows other men to learn from him and get better, so on and so forth. So you can see where people encompass, people are or become these different mindsets at different parts of their lives. And I think that's what's important about this, is that we're not, just one of these things in the male astrology alphabet community. I'm sorry, man. They said that shit. It's like, I can't get it out of my head because it's fucking hilarious. But, people see these things and they look at what we do in this space. And, it's just one thing, and then also people in this space say, hey, listen, I'm this red pill person. I'm this red pill rager. I've even said things like the maroon pill, which is like red pill guys going even deeper, red pill rage guys going even deeper, and they're making it almost like they're seeing blood red, like the Red Lantern Corps type stuff, But we do these things and we say these different words and we have these different terminologies, and we combine them with things like comic book references, movie references, references in Greek mythology, if you will, or even Greek the Greek alphabet, simply because what it does is it anchors it to reality, and it pulls it out of the it pulls it out of your mind and puts it into reality so other people can understand where you're coming from and where you're trying to go, more importantly. So I think that's what's missed in this space, is the philosophical debates that used to be had in comment sections. And yes, there used to be quite a few, from people like Stardust, who's now known as the Thinking Ape. But, his comment section, you'll have those philosophical debates, but then you'll also have people that, troll a little bit more and, talk from extremes. And it's not so much as, people having fruitful conversations in a lot of these different comment sections, not just his. There's some good people that talk in his comment sections as well, but you'll also find the bad, as with anything, of course, right? But you're seeing it more and more, where these spaces are, I wouldn't say being invaded, but, more and more people are coming in, and you could say things like dilute, if you will, because you feel the space is not as pure as it was before. And I do feel like that in some cases, but at the same time, I've learned what I needed to in the space to get me through certain points in my life, and definitely helped out. But now the way I look at the space is it should be helping other men and other men understand not only women, not only society, but more importantly themselves. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing, is that these terms always help, or should be helping, men understand themselves. And I think that's somewhat being missed or not being stated or understood. And I think this is why, we can have Offer and Preach make titles like "This is Astrology for Men," because we're moving away from what this space was about. And I hope we can, like kind of refocus that a little bit over time. But those that want to know will, and we'll do the search. We'll do the searches, read the articles, look up people like Barbar. And I think he used to have a blog called Stripping the Male Ego, or Stripping of the Male Ego. I'm not sure if it's still up. I don't think it is, but he has quite a few videos, and where he studies this stuff and goes a little bit deeper into it and starts to really talk about these things and expand expand on them a little bit more. Anyways, with all that being said, I appreciate you guys always listening. Kind of took a week off of work now, so just kind of chilling out and dealing with some stuff here at the home. and just kind of going through things. But as always, if you're not taking what I say with a grain of salt and you're low on sodium, do your research, get more information, understand these things a little bit more. Explore the astrological signs known as the manosphere. Read through the Greek alphabet, the astrological alphabet manosphere community, and gain better understanding more than anything. And I think that's what's really important about all this. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening and looking at my light, I guess. Anyways, peace.